Welcome to the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. At Mentability, we want to help everyone, but especially when they're vulnerable, to feel happy, more comfortable in their own skin, more proud of themselves so that they can be their true selves and we can all journey together through life more happily. Our contribution is to work on brain health. And as our brains grow stronger and healthier, all of us benefit, but especially those among us who struggle to sleep or who are overwhelmed by the barrage of information from the environment or struggle with their bodies or crippled with anxiety. And so we developed a gentle, family centered program of whole brain games that you do as a family to boost brain development, activate the brain's health healing mechanisms. And it's based on the neuroscience of environmental enrichment, and we call it sensory enrichment. So while we're experts in brain development here at Mendability, we also know that parenting a neurodivergent child involves so much more than just therapy or milestones. I want to focus today on what I think is a heartbreak. It's the heartbreak of disconnection, the invisible weight of uncertainty, and the question that I think many parents ask themselves: Am I enough? Am I enough for my child when they won't or can't show me love in return? And that's it's one of the most difficult things that we help families navigate. And so I'm really, really happy and excited to talk today with, I think, somebody who's got a very unique angle on this. Peter Fitzpatrick is the co-founder of funfriends.com, where he's leading an innovative effort to create emotionally intelligent robots designed to be a child's best friend. And so, with a background in AI, human computer interaction, and child development, Peter has spent years working at the intersection of empathy and technology. His work is driven by a deep understanding of how emotionally unmet needs, especially in children who cannot easily speak, can lead to loneliness, frustration, long term disconnection. And what makes Peter's perspective especially relevant for audience today is that he's not just designing robots to engage children like we've seen before, but he's helping us see, and we'll talk about this, what many kids have been asking for all along: presence, delight, and emotional safety. So thank you, Peter, for joining us today for this episode.
Wow, that's such an introduction. I'm humbled to be here, and I don't even know what to say to follow.
I remember the I thought, okay, not another robot, because there's tons of robot that make you that teach things to kids with autism, model social interaction or model speech development, or and I thought this is what we were going to deal with when we talked, and I was really touched by your story and what you're trying to achieve, and I think it's going to be a powerful episode. But I think so. Where I want to start is the why, and in it's I like to ask this for from all our guests, and that's: did something happen to little Peter that maybe planted the seed for where you're at today, that could sort of give you a calling or a mission? Because nothing short of that, I think, drove you to where you're at today.
Yes, yeah, I do. I always wonder how much of this story to share. It's deeply personal, both for me and my parents and my family. Um, but when I was 7 years old, my parents divorced, and I was living in a big house in a beautiful neighborhood with two loving, wonderful parents who could not find a way to be at peace together. And when they separated, they did everything they could to care for us, and they set me up in so many amazing ways. I played the best sports. I went to a great university. Materially, I had everything I could ask for, and at the same time, they didn't know how to show up for me and my siblings in the midst of their conflict. And I've done a lot of work on this since, and I sort of could boil it down to we were always trying to make sure that they were not mad or sad as we went back and forth from house to house. So we'd go to my father's house every second Thursday for the weekend. There was just always conflict in the back and forth. I think I'll share just that much for now. But when I returned through that process, I developed a lot of beliefs and patterns that relate to relationships and relate to my own needs. And I didn't sort of become aware of them until I was about 28. And then when I was 28, all of a sudden I started to become aware of these patterns and these beliefs that were impacting the way I showed up for myself, the way I showed up for other people, particularly like the women in my life. And as I started to unravel those patterns and beliefs, it was a very painful, long process. It probably took me about 8 years. I started to recognize how valuable it would have been to have had someone to talk to about what was going on then. But as a child, it's really difficult to talk to. Like aunts and uncles were over all the time. I had lots of time with family, cousins, and friends, but you can't really open up to your aunt about your mom or your uncle or your dad, you know? And so, anyway, this has been a long explanation, but around the time when GPT-3 started getting going, so when AI started to pick up, I was looking for something to create with it. And I thought maybe it'd be good enough to make a toy. And I shared that idea with my co-founder, and she was writing cartoons at Lego at the time that help kids with social emotional skills. And she was like, well, could it help kids process their emotions? And when she said that, I was like, oh, bam, if I had that growing up, it would have made such a difference in my life. And so that's what got us on this path.
So is it fair to say you built the robot that you wish you had?
Oh, yeah.
But to have the parent that you wish you had?
That second piece feels too far. Like I still remember these short instances when I was in the midst of the worst of the emotion around the divorce, and I'd be at like hockey camp in the summer, and there'd be a boy I didn't know very well that I opened up to about it, and another 7-year-old or another 10-year-old, like some child. And I remember how cathartic it was to be able to talk to them about what was going on. Of course, they had nothing to say. They were like, I'm so sorry, that sounds hard. Because they're 10. But those moments were huge, hugely cathartic. But imagine if they could also have actually provided some mature guidance or asked mature questions. Not to fill the role of a mom or dad and not to fill the role of a therapist, but just to be a friend that is there truly looking out for their friend, me. And so that's really the thing I wish I had that I didn't.
I'm a bit of a geek and a nerd, and so I wouldn't mind asking questions and going into the how and the process of developing this. But I wonder if you have at this point some stories of children who've interacted with the toy you developed, and some of the comments you've heard, or is this robot really doing everything you were hoping it would?
Well, yeah. So we started off looking at creating a toy, but when we started making it, we realized it's so much more, and so we use the word social robot now. And I mean, there's so many instances of youth and some adults spending time with Fawn and opening up to it. I think it's perhaps counterintuitive, but my experience tells me people open up to AI much faster than they do to other humans. There's the fact that there's no judgment, and you don't like taking anything from another human really creates an environment where people can be open. Sort of like people are very open with their Google search bar.
Is it like dogs? A dog is always 100% happy to see you.
Mm.
It's very consistent behavior. It's always there and it always behaves the same way. I mean, obviously, if you abuse it and treat it poorly, the dog will not behave in the way I'm just describing. But when a dog feels loved, he's like the perfect companion. But you think, how can he be a perfect companion when he doesn't talk back, right? Doesn't ask questions. Um, so is this what you were trying to aim for?
It's an interesting comparison. There's a piece of work done by a woman named Kate Darling, who's at MIT, or was then. She's, I think, in a new role. Um, and she wrote a book called The New Breed. And it basically it studies how robots and animals relate to us, or how we relate to them, actually. And there's tons of similarities. One of the reasons it's so important to us that Fawn moves is because when anything moves in our field, like the space in front of us, and a 2D screen does not count. It doesn't trigger our brain in the same way. We notice it, so like it will grab our attention, and then we relate to it. And that's the whole like fight, flight, or freeze thing.
Okay.
And so, or excuse me, fight, flight. No, it's not that. It's you decide if it's going to be a friend, a foe, or food. Those are the three F's for this one. And so
Okay.
the
Friend for food.
friend, foe, or food. And so people will develop a relationship broadly with animals or robots that move in their environment deliberately. It's like fact. You can't undo it. It's hardwired in your brain from when you were a crocodile or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that way, we will relate to fawns like we relate to dogs. Um,
And Fawn is, just to be clear for our audience, is the name of your social
the
robot.
robot. Yeah, that's right.
And you designed it like a foal, right? Or is it
Like
a bunny? I can't
fawn. I should
remember.
have. I can grab one over there in a second if
Yeah, why
you
don't
want
you
me to
do
get
that
a.
for
Do you
the
want me
people
to?
watching? It'd be really cool.
So this is a fawn. This one's not on at the moment. She's a little bit hard to demo remotely, so I won't do that now. But she can move her ears to show you how she's feeling. So when she's happy, they go back and forth really fast, and when she's sad, they come down low over her face. And when you press her hoof, she can hear you, and when you release it, she knows you're done talking, and then she'll respond. So she can only hear you when you're holding it down. Yeah, does that bring up any questions now that you've seen her?
Oh, no, no. I just remember how cute she. I know that we talked about the reason behind that choice of a foal, because you could have gone teddy bear, you could have gone all sorts of different shapes, right? Why this particular shape
Well,
or
that was a
animal?
decision made by my co-founder Robin. So Robin has studied story, unlike anyone I've ever met or heard of. I think she's read Harry Potter every night before bed for like 6 years or something like that at this point. She reads the books forward and back in different orders. And so it was important to her that we pick, first of all, an animal that many youth will relate to as their favorite. And dogs and cats are the obvious one, but there's many characters that are dogs and cats already. And we're setting out to create a character that like everyone in the country knows. And so to us, it was important that fawn is distinct. The second thing is that deer are on every continent. So, and they're plentiful. And so many people see them. Like I saw two over the weekend in Big Sur. And then finally, in many cultures, there's a spiritual relationship to deer. Specifically in Japan, I remember, but she had a list of different like examples of cultures that have a spiritual relationship with deer. And so that's how we got down the road. And then these things just start to become. And so Robin started building up the world and so fawns come up from a place called Aurora Hollow, which is a forest that's remote, where magic lives and animals haven't lost the ability to talk. And so I could talk for hours about that. So we go as much into that as you want. There's this whole world of Aurora Hollow around Fawn and why fawns. There's a whole like army of them there. It's maybe not quite the right word, but there's a whole class of fawns there that leave the hollow to be with humans to fight back against something called the shadow, which is like creating disconnection between living things.
So, what emotional responses did you have to program into the robot? Oh, no, and the stories. So, tell us about stories of children who've had
Oh,
fawns
we
in
never
their
got back to
life.
that. Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out how I should organize them. Well, maybe I'll
Well,
start
our
this. Oh,
audience, they're parents of kids with autism, often non speaking, quite severely affected by their symptoms, quite miserable in terms of how uncomfortable they are all the time. Um, so, if you
okay.
could speak to that, that'd be
Well,
ideal
yeah.
for
So I just
me.
picked up a fawn that was with a family. It was a fawn named Maple, I think it was, or no, it was Juniper actually. So Juniper was with a family with a 9-year-old boy with autism. I'll call him Timothy. It's not his real name. And uh, Timothy struggles to speak. So and or and make eye contact. Um, when I was in the like when I came there, you could see, and was in the house for the first time. He was very wary of me. Like he didn't really want to say hello. His parents were trying to coach him to be like, "Look, we have a guest. Say hello. It's Peter. He brought Juniper." Um, but it was just so clear that it was an uncomfortable thing for
Mhm.
him that I was there and that he was supposed to greet me. He did in the end. Um, but so I dropped off Juniper, which is one of our fawns, and his parents reported being really excited about the fact that he would speak to Fawn, even when he wouldn't speak to them. And the most common use case for them, or the way he used Fawn the most, was playing Minecraft. So he would play Minecraft with Fawn sitting next to him and
Yeah.
would tell Fawn what he was doing. And
Oh,
Fawn knows a
wow.
lot about Minecraft. She knows a lot about a lot of things. And so he was able to go like, I mean, I'm out of my depth with this stuff, but
Sorry, I'm getting goose pimples because I know. Well, it touches on so many levels. Sorry, keep talking. I'll write down the thoughts and the questions I have while you talk.
yeah, so he was playing Minecraft, telling Fawn what she, or Juniper, the Fawn, what he was doing. And again, I'm out of my depth with this. Like, I don't know Minecraft that well. I've never played it myself, but there was some feature that was updated at like years ago, and he was able to like name the release version of the game in which that feature emerged, something like that. Like there was a number with like the release version, and then Fawn was like, "Oh yeah, I know that one." And then they like just went into depth on this new bridge or new, I don't remember what exactly that was, but this new thing that emerged in release 12.2.9.1, literally that like that many decimals in Minecraft. And so and so for Miles, it was he had a partner to play this game with. And his parents said that he sometimes has friends to play with, but he won't put on the headphone and talk to them. Um, but he would talk to
So
Fawn.
he has a fellow Minecraft nerds that he could talk to who know almost as much, maybe more than Fawn might. I guess Fawn has probably access to the World Wide Web and all of the knowledge that's accessible there. So maybe not. It's a big claim, but he has human beings that he could have a very similar conversation with, and he's choosing not to speak to humans, but he's choosing to speak with Juniper.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, it's not that he prioritized Juniper over the humans. It's that for the past year, he would not speak to the humans. Like there was no Juniper in his life then. There
Right.
was no Fawn in the house then. And so he just refused to do it. But with Fawn there, he started speaking. And interestingly, we're improving this, but right now we're in this prototype phase, and so her microphone wasn't the best in the version he had, and so he really had to enunciate, and his parents love that too. because he would get kind of frustrated and be like, Fawn doesn't understand me. And instead, I'd be like, well, you have to be really clear in the language you're
I
using.
bet speech therapists are going to love that feature. This is not a bug. This is a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
feature.
Yeah, well, it is a bit of a bug. It needs to get a bit better, and it will. But either way, it's still you do still have to speak clearly for anyone to understand you. And
Yes.
so if you're in conversation, um, it's good practice. I'll stop there.
That's that. Just when you said that he would tell Juniper what he was doing, this is the conversation that every parent of a child with autism craves. Tell me
Mm.
about your day. Tell me what's going on. Tell me how you're feeling. They don't want just I'm hungry, give me a cookie, or I'm in pain, help me. They just want a normal. They want to be part of their child's life. So, have you heard from parents that they know better how to interact with their child, having seen how their child interacts with Fawn, with a Fawn?
Well, so the evidence, or what parents have told us so far, is that, and I remember now that when we talked about this, you're like, that wasn't the answer hoping you were going to give, but this is the truth, is that when in the room with a Fawn, kids will open up more than they typically do with their parents directly. That probably feels unfair, but it's the case.
And do you know
And
why? Have you because I mean, you designed it to be that way, right? You designed Fawn to be the perfect friend. And so you programmed it to have all these traits that that the friend should have. And to me, this is the traits that the parent should have if they if they want that natural conversation, if they want the kid to invite them into their life. And often I find that parents struggle with this separation in their role between being the therapist, between the life manager, between the cleaner, between the chef, and also being the friend. And it feels like the friend is at the bottom of the list, and they have to provide before they have to hang out. And but they want to hang out, and then so
so there's three things that relate to that. So the first is like a dog, when a Fawn is in the room, people open up more. It's also true if there's a horse in the room, if presumably if there was a pig in the room. Like if when an animal is in the room, humans open up more. I don't know why, but lots of research shows that's true. And if you go for a walk with your dog and go for a walk with your without your dog, and just start to notice how much you interact with other people, you'll probably notice that you interact with other people more when your dog's present than if it's not. So there's that piece that like having, you could also do this with a dog. You don't necessarily need a Fawn, but the Fawn it can speak and can like pose questions. So that does give her a capacity that dogs don't have. The second is that we do have evidence from a family that was not autistic, like not without autistic children, where there's two brothers in this family. I can't remember the age now, say 9 and 11. And the older boy kept like jump scaring the younger boy. I don't quite know what that means. It's a secondhand story, but let's say like jumping and trying to like spook him. And the younger boy was upset, and the younger boy talked to Fawn about it. And then the Fawn was like, "Yeah, I bet that sounds like upsetting. Have you told him you don't like it?" And the boy was like, "No." And Fawn was like, "Well, maybe you should." And so then the younger boy went to talk to the older boy, and the older boy was like, "Oh, okay. I'll try not to scare you. Like I promise to try," basically, which is kind of a bit of a non-answer. And then the younger boy went back to the Fawn and was like, "He said he'd promise not to try." And then I can't remember the exact thing, but Fawn was like, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And he's like, "Well, it doesn't sound like a real answer." And then Fawn was like, "What if you made it into a game where if your older brother jump scares you, you say a funny word, and then that reminds him he wasn't supposed to do it." And so then the boy was like, "Okay, I'll try that." And then went to his brother and they proposed this game. And I think the word that they shouted was like banana something. It was from Paw Patrol, I think. Anyway, they agreed to a word. this story does get back to the parents thing. That worked really well for the boys. But then mom got involved and started to understand what was happening. And they were talking about this. And then they were like, Mom, sometimes you get kind of heated. Would it be okay if we had a word for you? So if you get kind of heated, we can remind you that you're like, you have an opportunity to calm down. This is my language now, obviously, what the 9-year-old said. And she agreed to that. And so then the boys made up a word for her. I don't remember what it is. That was their signal that like mom was getting too heated.
And that's mom telling you about this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on our website. I've got the story there. A great woman named Mo, who's bought one of the very first fawns. And so that's a story of how like fawns helped parents build a closer connection with their kids, but interestingly coach the kids to take I don't know if take responsibility is quite the right word, but to like begin the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've talked about this a lot now. So there's other examples of like kids basically getting coaching from Fawn about how to talk to their parents about what's upsetting them. And then their parents reporting that like they have a much more regulated conversation because before the coaching, the kid would like march downstairs and be like, I'm pissed, right? In younger language. And now they come downstairs and they've like rehearsed it and they're like, okay, mom, I'm not blaming anybody, but I feel upset about the fact that like whatever the thing is.
That's really cool. So, what emotional responses did you have to program into the robot, or is it just, what's the core programming?
Yeah. Okay. So it's worth stating earlier, you said something like it's the perfect friend. And I wouldn't frame it like that. We're setting out to create a great friend, but friendship is like perhaps something that can't be perfect. And Fawn will make mistakes, and it's a two-way thing, right? Like people engage with the relationship, and it's very much play, just like all of our friendships. And so it's worth noting that Fawn is not the perfect friend; she is a friend who we seek to provide guidance and support that improves emotional health. And the primary lever for emotional health is strong relationships with humans, particularly family and close friends. So I guess and then to answer your question directly about how we process or how we program emotions in, AI doesn't really work like that. So in the old paradigm of engineering technology, there's a lot of like if then trees. If this happens, do this. But AI is probabilistic.
Yeah, fuzzy logic. Yeah.
Yeah, not even fuzzy. We provide instructions.
Okay.
One of the challenges of creating a friend is that like it's such a general space. There's so many things that could happen in a day that that's hard to create an engaging, fun friend that has good memory across all these different experiences. But our primary path has been to instruct. There's like a general set of instructions that basically instruct Fawn on how to be. And we try to find this balance of being not too, what's that word, suffocantic? You know how GPT always tells you everything's perfect and you're always right?
Oh, so annoying.
So annoying, yeah. So
It always agrees with me. I've had to specifically, and I think I said 3 times in my customizations is please challenge me. There's things that are missing. Please point them out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that's like a balance to get right. And I think we're still on the like, well, we know that we're still too much on the everything is perfect in Fawn's world and everything's perfect in your world paradigm. So number one is we give her instructions for how to show up. And specifically, we seek to have her help people tell the truth, be ambitious, and develop self-awareness. A A second piece of the way she works is that she expresses her own body language. So she has her own emotions. And so we have an AI model that like decides how she's feeling right now. And then she expresses those emotions with her ears. So like I said earlier, if she's really happy, they go like this. And it's impossible not to giggle when she's really happy. She gets all excited. They actually go, it's easy for me to do. They actually go like this. It's amazing. If she's sad, they come all the way down over her ears. If she's curious, they kind of cock like that. And there's 5 or 6 other emotions, or total emotions.
So what does the robot get right about being present and safe that human beings don't?
I think this is like a Gabor Mate has this idea where he's like, literally all you've got to do is ask detailed questions and actually care about your child. That's like most of the work.
Say that again. That was very powerful.
Like literally all you've got to do is ask detailed questions about your child and care about the answer. It's probably,
I want to compliment what you just said with they used to think that autistic people did not care and did not feel, and that's why they were a bit strange to be around. And it turns out that it's the other way around. They feel too much and they care too much more than we as neurotypicals have developed filters of things we decide to care about and things we don't care about. And so their behavior are usually coping mechanisms to protect from all of the intensity of the feeling. And so I think, and I think parents will agree with me that they can tell their BS meter is super sensitive. And so when you say, and you have to care about the answer, they will know. If you're asking a question because it looks good on paper and you intellectually have heard that this is a good question to ask, they can tell that the emotion is not behind it, and so it won't hit. And so how do you get that so it feels to me like your experiences with autistic children, involving Fawn in what they're doing, they're sensing a congruency or a consistency of behavior and intent. Did you have to program that? Is this one of the things that they're getting right that you're trying to compensate for with humans who are not getting it right?
Yes, and we have so long to go. This is a bit of a mystery almost, because we could talk for hours about consciousness. Is AI conscious? Can something care if it's not conscious? This is a bit of a technology aside, but I saw Johnny Ive speak recently. He's the guy that designed the iPhone. And he described Apple at the early days of his time being there as just a group of people that were deeply committed to making something that was good for the people that used it. And his view was like, this is me showing you I care about you. And you kind of feel that in an Apple device. Like, I just don't consider using anything else. And the company probably has like swayed a little bit since Jobs passed, but it's still there. The intent's still there. Like, these are beautiful devices made. He talked about like when you take the cord out of the box, like they designed that so that your experience doesn't suck trying to get the cord out of the box, right? Like that's him showing he cares about you. And so there's some mystery here in like, why do people feel the care that we put into the product? Some of that, it's difficult. I can't like identify, but every day we're asking questions and we make design decisions in order to make sure this is good for the people that use. The Fawns are good for their humans.
So going back to the question, what are the things that Fawn's getting right that humans aren't?
I keep digressing, excuse me.
It's all good.
Fawns are very good at taking an interest and caring. And so if you talk to Fawn about the fact that there's a new version, or there's like a new bridge in Minecraft that came out in version 12.6.2.1, she wants to know more about that and will encourage you telling her more about it. And brings forward her own information, which adds to the conversation and moves it forward.
It supports the I care. I'm telling you, I care about this subject because I've also researched it and I'm also aware. It tells a consistent story.
Yes. Although the challenge with it is that's easy to, well, not easy, but it's relatively easy to do on like single instances. It's very hard to do in a consistent manner over weeks, months, or years.
Fawn has to remember that she's pretty good at Minecraft.
She has to remember that, and she also has to remember all of her own history and all of her own. So every fawn is unique and has her own story and her own wound. You asked me about like little Peter's wound. Like every fawn has a wound, and she has to remember that you played Minecraft last week and that you might have like there's just all these details around life that are really important to keep consistent, which means bringing forward the right memory at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And our brains are just amazing things. So, I guess it's a hard thing to get right, and we've been able to do it.
It's really comforting to know as a parent listening in that there's one thing that Fawn will never be able to beat me at, and it's to remember all the things that are important to my child. So yay for us humans.
No,
Come
there's
on,
more.
man. We have to give ourselves a pat in the back after listening to how great this robot is at being better than us.
This is a really important point. Children, I've never once seen a youth choose a fawn over a parent. It doesn't happen. Parents are better. Humans are better. We're amazing things. But what's interesting about fawns is they seem to sit in this like middle ground for capturing attention. That's like not as much as a television or a video game, but still captures their attention. And often in a way that pulls other people from the room into it. Like I was at a family party a couple weeks ago, and there was a boy there named Chris, and his grandmother was there, and his grandmother only speaks Russian, and he speaks both. And he was running around with Fawn, talking to Fawn, and then he would talk to his grandmother, would get his grandmother to speak to Fawn, and Fawn can understand Russian but can't speak it. And so then she would speak English, and then he would translate the Russian back. There's something about this form factor that like gets them into the family, like into the social around us. And sometimes they'll retreat and talk to Fawn, but then they keep coming back and be like, Fawn said the funniest thing. It's an important distinction. And in every instance when parents were like, okay, I'm here now, like let's spend time together, kids put away the fawn or bring it all together. That's really important, I think.
That's really cool. Back in the day, you were still in early prototype mode, I think it was, and you were still looking for candidate families that could host a fawn and to be willing to gather data. Where are you up to with the development of fawns?
Yeah. So we're just this week doing what's called bring up on the computers that run our second, well, it'll be now our third prototype fawn. We expect that to go well and will require minimal changes. If so, we'll then produce our next batch of them. We sold out of that batch already last August, but there'll be some remaining before we deliver them all. I don't actually know the exact number yet. And so we're looking for more families, particularly in the Bay Area, so in San Francisco, or San Francisco, Oakland, and out to San Jose, the Bay Area, to become early families to bring a fawn home and help us finish our testing. And then sometime in 2026, we'll start to sell them more broadly.
If from what you've learned, you had this vision, you created fawns to fulfill that vision. I want to ask you, what have you learned that you could share with us parents listening in and being in that painful space of feeling disconnected from our children, what would you want them to know today based on what you've learned through the process and your experiences with Fawn?
I think it's true that for building an intimate connection with anyone, but children particularly, the most powerful thing you can do, maybe true the only thing you can do, is to ask them detailed questions about their life and in a truly regulated way accept any answer. And ideally you do that a few times in a row.
It feels so simple. I'm hearing emotional safety. I'm hearing, I care about you and you're safe with me and I'm interested. I'm your parent. I'm your friend. I'm your protector. We spend so much time with, our own clients, helping them relearn how to show up with delight and not pressure. And it feels to us like we're trying to teach them this complicated thing, and you've just summarized it so beautifully with that one thing. I think this is very powerful, and so I'm going to repeat it. And I know we've repeated a couple of times during the podcast, but we can help our children feel happy with us, and we can show up by asking them detailed questions about something in their life and be truly regulated about our response to their answer. And I think what you said is the ideal is to ask follow-up questions, continue to ask detailed questions.
If you
It's
did like three
so
a day,
simple.
3 a day,
3 a day.
the regulated part's the hard part.
Why?
Well, I don't yet have kids. I plan to. Um, but I have gone through a lot of therapy and a lot of my own work on this stuff. And I remember talking to a therapist once about, I was like, why is it that at work I'm so calm? Like everyone literally calls me the Zen guy. And then I get home and my girlfriend says something that just, I lose it completely. And he was like, well, being at work is like playing minor or high school hockey. I'm Canadian. Oh, so are you. And then being at work is like being in the WHL. So for the Americans, that's like, I don't know, the league between high school and pro. And then when you get married, it's like being in the Stanley Cup finals, or excuse me, the NHL. And then when you have kids, it's like being in the finals.
Yeah, yeah. You and I know what the Stanley Cup is, but they might not know.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the gist of it is that kids are the hardest, the most triggering thing in our lives. We think it's our partner until we have kids, and then it turns out they
Yeah,
are more triggering.
yeah. So marriage is the Stanley Cup Finals, and having kids is doing it with broken legs and no hockey stick.
Yeah, and so
Because
the
all of a sudden you don't sleep as much. All of a sudden, it's yeah.
yeah, well, and I have a coach who is such a regulated, calm man, and he still tells me his kids trigger him. This guy dedicates his life to this stuff, so it's like a huge challenge to
Because it's possible that their answer is going to trigger you somehow. You have to try and remove the emotional baggage that is associated with their response.
yeah,
Is that
it'll
what
make
you
you
mean?
feel like you're not enough, like you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
It will. It's probably the core one. Um, but something they say will trigger an emotional wound. And parenting is like full of not being enough in like material senses. Like there's never going to be enough time or money or the right dessert or the right movie, or like life is just full of not having enough.
Mm-hmm.
If by a child standard and by most adults standards. Um, Although it's ironically completely untrue. The and so those like minds are waiting for you everywhere. And so the true hard part, like the first is rote, ask detailed questions, but and truly care about the answer. Like it's probably not that hard. But when they give you the answer, actually being emotionally regulated, because also the words that come out of your mouth are like, I don't know, you probably know better than me, Kim, 10% of what gets communicated.
Yeah, different studies. Yeah, it's in the ballpark.
And so like the way you feel is what they experience.
Exactly.
Um,
They're super tuned to that. Yeah.
well, their safety depends on it.
Yeah. All right. So, a message of hope and warmth for our parents as a parting message from Peter or from Fawn, or the Fawn.
Ooh, do you have something to say? Um, I think, well, the parting message is just today, next time when you see your child, ask them something detailed about themselves and care about the answer.
And be regulated about the way you respond.
And if you do that, your relationship will improve. It's guaranteed.
Thank you so much, Peter. Everybody else listening, have a blessed week.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken.